Smith Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Let's check it out. Well guys, today we're going to take a look at the Smith Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, and this is a complete departure, total redesign of the original Bodyguard in 380 ACP, which was introduced in 2010. It had a shorter grip, it had an internal hammer-fired action, which made the trigger pull pretty long, and a little bit snappy to shoot. Not one of my favorites, even though it was a very popular option. But with a 2.0, it gives you a little bit longer grip. It's 10+1 in the magazine, and it also comes with a 12+1. It's a striker fire trigger system, so it's actually very consistent and much improved over the original. And there's some other things about this. So why would you choose 380 ACP for a concealed carry? Well, a little less recoil. Plus, it's a very small package. Now for me, I carry a 380 ACP on a regular basis if it's something where I have to be very discreet. Maybe it's the way I'm dressed, maybe it's just that I'm carrying it and it can't print. And so these make a great option for that. So whether it's your regular carry or even a backup or for deep cover, 380 ACP has a great place, and it's really made a big revival over the past couple of years. There's a lot of different options. But this is tiny, it has a great round capacity, and guys, it shoots really well. Now I was invited up to Maryville, Tennessee to the Smith & Wesson factory to get a pre-launch test drive of the Bodyguard 2.0. And man, this is just a fantastic gun. And a big thank you to Smith & Wesson for sending the Bodyguard 2.0 for me to keep. But guys, we're going to give you all the details, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Guys, when it comes to 380 ACP, there has been a revival, and there's a number of reasons, but there are some different sizes in 380 ACP, some more fuller size compact handguns, but then we have the micros. One of the things about a 380 and a micro is, for me personally, it is my deep carry option. If I need to carry something that cannot print for whatever reason, I choose a small 380 ACP because it's just easy to hide. Summer carry is another option. But a lot of women go to a small 380 ACP because it has a little less recoil and it's smaller and easier for them to fit into their style. And it's just the way it is. So finding something that is small and yet capable, like a good 380 ACP with a good self-defense ammunition, is something that, to me, I use on a regular basis. Yes, I carry standard 9mm pistols on my hip most of the time, and then sometimes 45, 10mm. But this gives me another tool in my toolbox, but it can also be your standard concealed carry. Let's go ahead and make sure the gun is unloaded. We have a 10-round magazine, which gives us some good capacity. Check the chamber, and it's empty. Now, when I first saw this handgun, it's Smith & Wesson, and they did an early preview, and I saw it on the screen, and I thought, that just looks like a shield that's in 380 ACP. But here we have the Shield Plus in 9mm, 10+1 as well, and you have an empty chamber, but it is a much larger firearm. And I like that because the 9mm is really my preference when it comes to self-defense, but if I need to dial it down, this gives me the right size profile. And you can see, I mean, it's smaller, both length and height, but much smaller in width. And that to me is almost as important for concealed carry as anything. And there have been some upgrades to this handgun. So this is a very tiny, small package. But it also comes with a 12-round magazine included when you get the gun. So we can just add 2 additional rounds. And so now we have 12 plus 1 in a very small package. Now with that, when we drop our magazine and put in the 12-rounder, it sticks out just a touch. And to be honest, it shoots easier and a little better with this extension. But this is the area that is the hardest to conceal. So maybe put that in your pocket, and then you have the small 10-rounder that fits flush with the grip, and now you have a very small package. Pocket carry, ankle carry, in the waistband, even with a sticky holster. I mean, there's a lot of ways to be able to carry these very small 380 ACP pistols. In fact, sometimes I need off-body carry, whether it's at the dojo, whether it's at the gym, or whether it's at the pool or the beach. This gives me a very small option, but I have something that I can grab if I need to. Now again, this is the 2.0, and this came from the original Bodyguard, which had a short grip, but it was also an internal hammer-fired pistol, which gave it a long, fairly heavy trigger pull. I was not a real big fan once I shot that a few times. I mean, it was tiny and it was small, but one of the things about this grip is it gives you a lot more. I mean, for me, even though I have medium-sized hands, I still get 3 full fingers on this grip without the grip extension. If you have larger hands, that's going to be even better. And then the original Shield had 6 plus 1 magazine capacity. And when you broke it down, you had to actually pull the takedown pin out of the handgun and use a screwdriver to pop it out. And those are just the major things. One of the things about the new Bodyguard 2.0 is it has really nice serrations. And you'll notice they go all the way up on the slide. And this is, it gets expensive the more machining you do, especially these different angles. But here again, it goes up and it kind of comes up to the slide. Just gives you a lot more surface to be able to grab. And it's really easy to bring those back. And also, it does hold open on the last round. Now, one thing I love about Smith & Wesson in particular is their Armonite finish. It's probably one of the best black nitride finishes on the market. The smoothness and the beauty is a little bit of a matte finish, but it has a sheen to it. And I think it really looks good on all the 2.0 handguns. But it is stainless steel barrel that's 2.75 inches in length. In fact, the entire length of the gun is 5.5 inches. And the width is 0.78 inches, so it's really thin. You do have your slide stop that comes out just a touch, but really it's a very clean side. And that's one thing I also like about a concealed carry option. As far as the sights, so we have a black serrated rear sight, and then we have a front tritium sight with an orange circle around it. It makes it really easy to pick up at the range. These are both dovetailed in, so you can change those out if you want, but it gives you a really nice sight picture. And for concealed carry, I like to have a night sight, especially just at least on the front, because a lot of things happen bad at night. And if you can see your sights, it gives you an advantage. Now the grip has some really nice texturing front and back strap. They're not super aggressive, but they're definitely very easy to grab. You feel like you've got a lot of texturing there. The grips here on the side, not so much. But this is not where you grip. You grip front and back. Also, we have that beaver tail effect all the way up. So even guys with larger hands, it's going to be less likely to get the slide bite. And a lot of times with very small semi-automatics, that can be a real problem. And so the beaver tail has definitely been increased. We have memory pads right here at the front. And what I love about that is when I'm finished shooting at the range, I take my finger and put it right on that pad. But also on the shooting side, I take my thumb, rest it on there, and it gives me a little more leverage to the gun. Now it's going to pop off, but it's going to give you that stability when you're firing those rounds that just really help with recoil. Now the 380 doesn't have near as much recoil as your 9mm, but physics come into play and you've got a much smaller handgun. You have your slide stop here. We have our takedown lever, which we'll look at that when we break it down. With the magazine release, it is extended just a touch. Now we shot this quite a bit. I didn't have any problems inadvertently dropping the magazine, but everyone has different hand sizes, but this seemed to be really good. And when I put that 2-hand grip on it, or even a one-handed grip, I missed the magazine release. And it being extended, I can take my thumb and I can actually hit it without adjusting my grip that much. It is important to adjust your grip a little bit because you don't want it to be too easy to get to. But there's very little movement because the grip is so thin. and with 10 rounds or with 12 rounds. It gives you a lot of capacity for a very thin, small handgun. And also, the mag release is changeable to the other side. No back straps, no Picatinny rail up front, not optics ready. But to me, this is the way, and my preferred way to carry, is just like it is. We have Bodyguard 2.0 on one side of the slide with the Smith & Wesson logo. Here on the other side, these are made in Maryville, Tennessee. Serial number here is a plate in the bottom of the receiver. Now, one gun that I have been carrying as my deep concealment carry option is the Ruger LCP Max. This gives you 10 rounds in the magazine. You can get an extended magazine as well, but it is a very small handgun and really shootable. I really have loved this handgun. I think it's great. In fact, you know, anytime I'm going somewhere where I just can't print, this is my carry option. And you can see with the Bodyguard 2.0, it is a very small package. Both are. As we put them side by side, the Ruger actually is a little shorter, just a touch. And then with the grip, it's very minimal, not even a magazine base pad difference. But it does give you a little bit of a bigger grip on the front. You'll notice that with the Ruger, it's more down low. We've got a lot of less surface area here. And so I'm able to get more hand and fingers on my grip. Also with the beaver tail, because it comes up so high, it takes this angle and brings it up. So really, this is a much lower bore axis. In fact, a super low bore axis. And you know, a lot of guys will say, well, what does that matter? Well, the thing is, if you think about it like this, you put your hand down here and you fire the handgun, it's going to violently recoil. The higher up you get it to the bore of the handgun, the more leverage you have on the firearm. So as the slide comes back, it comes back lower on your hand, and it just makes it softer shooting. So honestly, I've been carrying the Ruger LCP since it came out, and this is the Plus. I will be switching to the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. This is just a really beautiful gun. I really like the black nitride finish, or the Armor Night finish, better than the kind of a stonewash finish that's on the Ruger. Now, one of the things about the Ruger is, honestly, it kind of got things started with the LCP. And Kel-Tec had their P380. But this was a very small handgun. The Max really kind of changed the game because it gave you a little more grip, and so you're able to hold on to it. But you can see how much space we have right here at the frame. But this is still a very easy gun to shoot. But with this lower bore axis, it's just going to give you some advantages. But it's typically going to be more expensive, and we'll talk about price in a little bit. Again, the flat face trigger, we have our blade safety right here, and you'll notice as I depress it at the rear, it pops up and it keeps it from blocking against the frame. And that way you don't inadvertently get this caught on something without a full pad on the trigger face. So here we have some take up to right about here. You can see the over travel stop, or the trigger stop right here. So as we pull it, we go straight to the stop. It is not a bad trigger. It's not a great trigger. It's a polymer frame striker fire trigger. Reset. Right there. Reset's a little bit out, but not too bad. Now let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge. 3 pounds, 7.7 ounces. 3 pounds, 9.8 ounces. That's not bad. 3.5 pounds, it gives you a very nice trigger pull. And the weight on the Bodyguard 2.0, 11.46 ounces. It's under 11.5 ounces. Very lightweight, easy to carry. Well guys, when it comes to 9mm, you have 115 grain, goes all the way up to 147 grain. So you have a pretty decent sized bullet. Here, a 95 grain with a 380 ACP. 1,200 feet per second versus 960 feet per second. So the ballistic capability definitely comes with the 9mm. But when it comes to lower recoil, lower pressures, and yet can be an effective self-defense caliber, the 380 ACP is just much easier to shoot, less recoil. I want to give a big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring our ammunition, all made in the USA, one of the biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. And very consistent ammo. I left my Lula loader up at the shop, so we're going to load it the old-fashioned way. Now when I was loading the 12-round magazine, I got the first 10 in, not too bad. It started getting a little stiff, but when you get to that 11th and 12th round, it's really tight. And typically with these, once you shoot them a couple of times, it breaks it in, and then it just really is much easier. But if I'd had a little loader, I could have done that a lot easier. We'll see after we shoot it a few times. Well guys, down at the range, one thing I want you to really notice is the lack of muzzle flip. It's very light. And I think a lot of that has to do with the longer grip, but also the recoil system just seems to be really well tuned. But this is a very pleasant shooting gun. One thing I've noticed with the double stack 380s, it gives you just a touch more width, which isn't much, but it definitely helps. Now we're going to go with the 10-round magazine. Goes in. One thing you're going to have to do, make sure that you pop it, that it is closed. Load around. And then, of course, one-handed. In fact, it's very important to train that way because a lot of times in self-defense situations, that's the way it works. But we have had no malfunctions. We've put, well, about 400 rounds through it, and plus all the testing I did earlier. This has just been a great little, very reliable handgun. We're going to check accuracy, of course, in a few minutes, but it's right spot on every time I'm shooting. But a real pleasure to shoot. Now, one of the things about a small 380 is the controls are small, everything's smaller. So if you're a female shooter, sometimes it's really close to work in. So you need to make sure that you can function the controls. But man, I love the way this shoots. It's very flat, and one of the things about it, I can get a lot of rounds on target in one area. It's not a pray and spray, like some of the little micro 380 pistols. Front sight shows up great. Of course, the black outline in the back, but it's a very good picture, and it just naturally comes up. The grip texture is good and strong, but not too aggressive. When it comes to the 12-round magazine, you know, it took a few minutes, a few reloads to be able to get it to smooth out, but it did. And it gives you just a little bit of an extra grip on the handle. And to be honest, the 10-rounder works just fine, but that'll give you that little bit of extra, especially if you have bigger hands. And that leverage really works well. I mean, you can see it just shoots super flat. So for a tiny gun, really easy to control at the range, and actually after 300 rounds, I mean, there's no wear on my hand, and sometimes with some of these really small ones, it can give you a workout. So Smith & Wesson, you did a great job on the 2.0, much improved. Now for disassembly, we're going to drop our magazine, check the chamber, the gun's empty. Now bring your slide back and engage your slide stop. Next, take your lever, just like on the standard 2.0s, and bring it down to about 6 o'clock position. Now we're going to release the slide stop and we're going to pull the trigger, and this disengages the safety. And then you can just take your slide and it'll come right off. And then we have our double recoil spring. Pull it out. And then we have our barrel, and I'm telling you guys, this barrel is tiny. And then we have our slide, which is very narrow, very thin, very well done inside, no tooling marks, it's just done very well. There is an M inside the slide, which I believe denotes that this is made in Maryville, Tennessee. And then we have our frame. A little bit more extended slide rails here on the back, and 2 slide rails on the front. So this is going to give you a little more slide rail to frame fit, which I really like. It just makes it a smoother shooting handgun. Here you can see the mechanism inside, the striker mechanism. I mean, that's very unique, very different. And we have our ejector right here, this really low profile. And guys, so we have the gun disassembled. Cleaning your firearm is very important, especially for your concealed carry option. And Otis Technologies makes some of the best cleaning equipment out on the market. They are also the official supplier of cleaning equipment for the U.S. military. And they actually invented the ripcord, or what a lot call it the bore snake. So great company, and we really appreciate their sponsorship. Now for reassembly, just in reverse order, we're going to drop in our barrel, and then we're going to bring our recoil spring and guide rod. You'll want to make sure that it comes through right here because it can be a little tight to get it loaded. There we go. And then go right over your frame with your slide, lock it into slide lock, pop your lever in the up position, drop the slide, enter a fresh magazine with empty, and then point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and we have our function check, and we're good to go. The retail price on the Smith Wesson Bodyguard 2.0 is $449. Go to your local gun shop or your favorite retailer, and you can typically get it for less. What are some pros and cons? Well, it's tiny, and that is the biggest pro, period. It's just very small. It's shootable. And of course, with this design of the little bit longer grip with the beaver tail, and then that really low bore axis with really minimal slide. Because of the low pressures of 380, this is a very easy gun to shoot. The slide serrations are going all the way to the top. Really good sights, especially with the tritium bead. Stainless steel with the armonite finish. Flat face trigger makes it really excellent, and it's about 3.5 pounds. The grip texture is very well done. And also we have our 12-round magazine, which gives us that much more capacity. As far as cons, well, it's 380 ACP. Compared to 9mm, I would choose 9mm. But if I need something really small, this definitely helps. And 380 is an effective self-defense caliber. Another con could be if you have really large hands, this may just be very small in your hand. But it gives it that extra length on the grip to be able to really grip hold, and yet you're not having to worry about that slide bite. It just has a very ergonomic feel to it. It has all the controls of a full-size firearm, which makes it nice. Sometimes with the 380, small 380s, there's some corners that are cut. While the trigger pull is fine, it is just a little bit mushy there toward the end, but this is, again, a very self-defense oriented handgun, and you're not really looking for bullseye accuracy. You're looking to get those rounds on target. So overall, very small handgun. Would I carry this every day as my total concealed carry? For me, no. I like the 9mm. I like the little bit better ballistic capabilities. But again, this is one of the options that I will be carrying and have carried 380 for those off-body carries, for deep cover, when I just don't want to print. It gives you an excellent tool for your self-defense toolbox. So guys, if you're looking for a very small pistol that you can deep cover, if you want something that has a little less recoil and something you can carry every day, a small 380 ACP is a great choice, especially if you have a decent round capacity. And 10 or 12 rounds gives you a lot of capability for such a small package. And so check out the Bodyguard 2.0. This is a great little pistol. In fact, it's what I call the mini shield, but it shoots great. And again, a big thank you to Smith & Wesson for sending the Bodyguard 2.0 for this review. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. It just has a little 2.0 Bodyguard. I didn't do my safety check. I didn't do jack cramp. And you can put it in your pocket. You can put it in an ankle holster. And I'm giving you all this stuff, and I don't even need to. Empty and chambers empty and chim. Okay. Now there are some trade-offs when you get to tiny, and I can't grip this gun because I got my thumb back here.